Hello and welcome back. Now we want to look at what we call comparison of ratios. Okay, so let's start with these two examples. Let's start with example 1. Right, so in example 1 we want to express the ratio 15:8 in the form n:1. Right, we want to express the ratio 15:8 in the form n:1. Right, so we are saying that the form n:1 means that the value of n will be either a whole number, fraction, or a decimal. It doesn't matter. So if you have your ratio a to b, then b must be reduced to 1, and we do this by dividing by b. So if we divide by b and b, then we'll be having a over b is to 1, and in such case it will be now in the form n:1. So with our 15:8, then we can simply divide by 8 for both terms, so that dividing by 8 we get 1 here, and 8 into 15 we get 1.875. so that means our ratio in the form n:1 will come out as 1.875 is to 1, and that's simply how we express a ratio in the form n:1 that way. I'm going to be explaining why we have to do this later in this lesson, but let's go on to the second example, example 2. Right, so in example 2 we have a scale. Express the scale 20 centimeters to 5 kilometers in the form 1:n, where n is a whole number. Right, so this is our scale, and our scale 20 centimeter to 5 kilometer in ratio form is 20:, you see here we've got different units. We've got centimeters and 5 kilometers. So 5 kilometers will come out as 500,000, right, centimeters. Remember that 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters, and it's equal to 100,000 centimeters. So I've simply multiplied 5 by 100,000 to get 5 kilometers in centimeters, so that we can have our ratio 20:500,000. So in the form 1:n, you can see here that we have to make 20 to be a 1, so we do that by dividing by 20 for both. 20 into 20 will give us 1, right, and 20 into 500,000 will give us 25,000. Right, so this is our ratio now in the form 1:n. Okay, so it's a very simple thing, and you're saying that we've got our ratios, we're expressing them in the form n:1, 1:n. This helps us to compare different ratios. For example, let's say we wanted to compare two ratios. Which ratio is greater, 5:7 or 3:4? Right, so this would help us. What we've been learning will help us to determine which ratio is greater. So with our 5:7 ratio, or 3:4, we express them in the form n:1. Doing so will help us to find which one is greater. So with our 5:7 in the form n:1, we divide by 7, so that if we divide 7 into 7 we get 1, right, and 7 into 5, what we get is 0.714, and that will be 2:1. So the ratio 5:7 in the form n:1 comes out as 0.714 to 1. So what about the ratio 3:4? In the form n:1 we divide by 4 and 4, and we'll be getting 0.75 for 3/4 is to 1 for 4/4. So we can clearly see here that the ratio 0.75 to 1, which is 3:4, is the greater ratio. So 3:4 is the greater ratio, simply by we've determined that simply by expressing them in the form n:1. So this form n:1 helps us to compare different ratio or different ratios or different scales to see or determine which one is greater or lesser than the other.